No, I don't want to step on anything, but I talked to you before the show, and I've got this story that is such a classic show business story that I've been gifted with.
Yeah.
I never expected this to happen in my life. And I've got like a classic show business story.
I think this is the place to do it if anyone here wants to hear in the Egyptian theater a classic.
Because it also addresses your question about interviewing, because it all comes around to this.
By the way, this is what I want. I brought Marc Maron here because I wanted to trick people into buying tickets, but also I wanted to ask him, because I just finished his podcast tour. Like, I'm a terrible interviewer. This is like my weakest skill, right, Chef?
After rap.
Yeah.
I think he's excellent at rap. Excellent.
He's all right.
Yeah.
Interviewing is no easy task. Gonna fuck your mama so hard,
Right.
pussy
Okay.
needs
All
a
right.
flask.
All right.
He was...
What I do.
I was gonna, the thing was gonna be, I was gonna ask Maron, how do you interview people?
All right, well, here's
as
what,
the Barbara Walters of comedians.
Well, I don't know about that, but here's what happens. So I get an opportunity to interview Mel Brooks, okay? Now, right, it went up today, and if you listen to it, you heard half of this story. You haven't heard the whole story. So now Mel Brooks, there's nothing he hasn't said publicly about his life that he has worked into a shtick and that he's gotten laughs with. It's all out there. I did research. I watched all the old Dick Cavett shows. I watched the new Dick Cavett interview. I watched him interviewed by some English guy. I listened to a whole episode of The Nerdist. All right, that's how far I went.
Wow.
And I say that with love and a slight bit of resentment and contempt. That's the triangle for me. That's the triad. So my problem was, how am I going to talk to Mel Brooks and get something out of him that he hasn't said before and really connect with him as a person? So I realized going in, this would be the advice. I don't know if you can take this advice. My first thought was, like, I'm a Jew. Sorry. I'm a Jew.
Welcome to the Egyptian.
He's a Jew. Yeah, we used to...
Thank you. This place is beautiful.
No, we did a lot of work for them. Yeah, some of the greatest Jewish artifacts are Egyptian.
We're going to put you in a basket in a river after the show.
That would be fine. I hope that his mother finds me. So I can fuck her. Boom, huh?
West Side.
All right, so I figure I'll just go full Jew with Mel. That's what literally, I got in there and within 5 minutes, I'm talking like this. What, are you kidding me? Of course,
New podcast, Full Jew with Mel.
Full Jew with Mel.
But I've seen that happen to you when we had Kindler on the show.
I haven't sort of...
All of a sudden, you got Pegasus. It's really weird.
They just grow out.
That was a good moment on the show. That was fucking hilarious. Judd Hirsch plays my dad, and my dad's a bipolar lunatic, all right? So they get Judd Hirsch to play him, and my concern was Judd Hirsch is a little too, hey, how are you? I'm cute.
Wait, you replaced what's his name with Judd Hirsch?
Well, he couldn't do it.
Oh, okay.
Ed Asner
That's
couldn't
awesome.
do it.
Judd Hirsch is...
He's great. He's a great actor, right? But my fear was, like, he'd be too cute and too Jewy and not scary enough to be my father, right? So he gets there on the first day of shooting, and he's doing his Judd Hirsching, like, hey, I'm here. What do we do? and all you guys were sitting there behind the camera going, oh, he's doing it. Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
And
Independence Day.
Right, and then there was that moment where I'm like, he's an actor. Go tell him to be scary. And then you went over there, and I think you said, Judd, can you turn down the Jew a little bit? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Could you just leaven it 1/4 inch?
Could you just snip a little bit off the end of it?
Or snip less, right? I don't know. That always confuses me.
No, because I always... what do I say about this?
He was great, by the way.
Oh, you know, my favorite part of that was we got done with that episode, and you go, Maron goes, I think my real dad's gonna sue me. And I go, he should.
That may happen. All right, Mel Brooks. I don't want to take up all your time, but I got to tell this story.
Full Jew.
So I talked to Mel Brooks. I'm talking to him. We're getting along. We're hitting it off. There's a couple of great moments in the podcast. One that is not actually on the podcast. Mel Brooks looks at me and goes, I'm going to give you something exclusive. And I'm like, fucking great. He goes, I'm at the Fox commissary. I see Gene Wilder sitting with a legal pad. And I walk up to him and go, what are you writing, Gene? He goes, Young Frankenstein's an outline for a movie. And Mel Brooks says, I said to Gene, we're going to do that movie. And Gene said, "You got to get me out here." And Mel Brooks said, "I'll get you out here." And Gene says, "I want a cottage at that." And then Mel Brooks goes, "What the hell is that hotel? What's that hotel?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." "You know it's a hotel. It's in Bel Air. It's a hotel." And I go, "You Beverly Hills Hotel?" He goes, "No, it's in Bel Air. Hold on a minute. I'll get it." And then he stands up and he goes to the door where his assistant is. He goes, "What is that hotel? It's in Bel Air. It's on that street. What is it called?" And I hear the assistant go, I don't know. He's like, "Look it up on the thing." All right, so I hear her clicking away, and he goes, "It's in Bel Air." And she goes, "Is it the Bel Air Hotel?" "That's it, the Bel Air Hotel."
Wow.
And he comes in, he sits down, he wants a room at the Bel Air Hotel, he wants a supply of Earl Grey tea and a supply of digestive biscuits. And then I'm like, "Yeah," and he goes, "That's the whole thing." All right. It's beautiful.
It says he got that out of Mel
Yeah,
Brooks.
yeah.
That's amazing.
He's a master.
All right, so here's what happens. So I do this whole interview, and Mel, so he takes a liking to me, and he says, "You should be doing a talk show on television." And I'm like, "Great, make some calls, let's make it happen."
I want a cottage.
Right, yeah, at that hotel.
What's the
it's
name?
in Bel Air.
I need Red Zinger.
Oh, it's it's behind the bar. It's at the Marmont. It's a bungalow. What's it called?
Yeah. So he then goes, "You got to talk to Carl. You got to talk to Carl Reiner." And I'm like, "That'd be great." He goes, "I'll set up for you. I'll call Carl Reiner. It'll be great." And I go, "How is Carl Reiner?" And Mel goes, "He's about 80%. All right. Hold on. This is great.
That's
okay.
awesome.
So then Mel goes, "You know what? I'm going to walk you out." And I'm at Culver. I'm on the second floor in an office building at Culver Studios. So I walk outside. We walk down the hall. I go, "Thank you, Mel." And I got my boom and my bag and everything. He goes, "You know what? I'll walk you down." So then we walk down, and I go, "All right, well, it was great, Mr. Brooks." He goes, "I'm going to walk you outside." So we walk outside, and we're standing outside. I go, "Well, thank you again." He goes, "Where's your car?" And I go, "It's in the parking lot." He goes, "Yeah, I'll walk you to your car." So I'm walking with Mel
Cape
Brooks.
Fear.
Right, I'm walking with... Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Except
Mel
it's
Brooks.
hilarious. You would love him to be here. So then we walk to the parking lot. He goes, "Which car is it?" And I go, it's a Camry." He goes, and he points at a Bentley. He goes, "Oh, I thought this was it. Why'd I walk you out here?" And he goes, "Which camera?" I go, "It's that one." And I walk over to the car. I'm like, "Thank you, Mel Brooks and Mr. Brooks." And he goes, "No, I'm going to watch you put your stuff in your car." So I put the stuff in the car, and he goes, "You should have a talk show." And I'm like, "Make those calls." He goes, "You talk to Carl." Right? All right. So he sets up Carl. So I go to Carl's house. There's a whole other series. There's a whole other Jewish experience. I go to Carl's house. I'm greeted by his nephew and manager, George Shapiro, who's in his 70s. All right, Carl is going to be 91. So George Shapiro comes. He greets me. He talks about Seinfeld for 5 minutes. There's a publicist there. There's a chair, a couch. And then Carl comes down, and he sits in a chair, and I mic him up with the boom, right? And we start talking. Right, and I say, "So you and Mel hang out every night?" I heard he says, "He comes over here every night. We hang out." I'm like, "What do you do?" He goes, "It has to do with chicken feathers. Maybe I'll tell you." Fine. So I'm sitting there talking to Carl for like an hour. While I'm talking to Carl, George Shapiro is in a chair directly across from us. The entire time, he's in and out of this. But when I finish the interview, Shapiro's the first one to get up and go, "God, that was great. That was a great interview." All right. A couple of things happen real quick. I'm getting to the punchline.
You're doing fine.
In the middle of the interview, he says, "Did you see that show on PBS about the Jews in the Broadway musicals? How many Jews were involved in Broadway musicals?" I go, "I didn't see it." He goes, "I never knew there were so many Jews involved in Broadway musicals. There's a whole list at the end. You got to see it. I'll show it to you after the interview." I'm like, "Fine." So we finished this fucking interview. I talked to him for like an hour and 15 minutes, and then he says, "I'm going to show you the thing." He starts playing with remote controls to find the thing on the TiVo, right? George Shapiro goes, "Is there ice cream?" All right. Shapiro goes, and he gets a box of ice cream sandwiches, and he hands everyone an ice cream sandwich. So now we're eating ice cream sandwiches. Carl is figuring out the TiVo.
I want to be Jewish.
Huh?
I want to be 90.
So he finally figures the TiVo out, and he starts the documentary at the beginning. So I'm sitting there with an ice cream sandwich thinking, am I going to have to sit here for a fucking hour and watch the whole thing? I mean, it's familiar to me, but it's also a little peculiar, right? So we're watching that, and I'm just sitting there, and we're eating the ice cream, and I'm like, yeah, George Gershwin, and we're talking. And then the phone rings, and I see Carl pick it up, and I'm putting my shit away, and he goes, hello? Yes, it was great. It went very well. Yes. And he holds the phone out, and he looks at me, he goes, it's Mel. So I pick up the phone, I go, hello? And all I hear is 80%, right?
The Butler did it. David Butler did it. He did it in the butt.
And then I said to Carl, I said to Mel, I said, maybe 85. And he goes, all right, maybe 85. Put Carl back on the microphone. So then...
On the microphone?
Yeah. And then Carl hangs up the phone. They talk about chicken for a few minutes.
They can't hear, so they have a microphone on the telephone.
I think he was just being cute. So then I forget that, Mike. I forget to ask him about the feathers. So I go, what's the chicken feathers with you and Mel? What is that about? He goes, all right, you want to know? I go, yeah. And he points to the publicist who's on the couch. He goes, oh, you got a pillow behind you? Can you feel anything? Just give me the pillow. So this guy hands Carl the pillow, and Carl, sitting down, he puts the pillow on his lap and very delicately starts running his hand over this pillow like this. And then he goes, ooh, and he pulls a feather out of the pillow, right? And like a down feather, and he very delicately puts it on the armrest. And he says, I put these in a bag. I've got a lot of them. Yeah, and he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I got a lot of them. And then he starts running his hand over the pillow again. I go, what's this have to do with you sitting here for hours with Mel Brooks? He goes, this is what we do.
Marc Maron, everybody. That was a new segment called The Full Jew.
Yeah, The Full Jew.
Hilarious.
A new segment. We're gonna bring Maron back every week and do The Full Jew if he can stay in with these guys.
Are you kidding? I could do that any night of the week.